Welcome, guys, back to the Misfit Athletics podcast, number 27 for Cycle 4.
How is it Cycle 4 already?
Welcome, guys, back.
Welcome! We're back.
I'm Misfit Athletics.
Who? All right,
Drop
anyways.
shirt on his head?
Yeah, that's why I'm wearing this. Duh.
What are you wearing?
Whoa,
A
what is
hat.
that?
It's my new hat.
All right.
Yeah, it's a nice hat. All right, anyways.
Anyway, what's
What do you
going
want-
on?
Where would you like to start?
Probably in the intro.
Well, the intro? Is
Yeah.
that what they're doing right now?
Yeah.
All right. So, something that's coming up in this the new year is going to be some changes to the website. Gabe and Ted and the rest of the crew here have been working pretty hard on that. So, I don't know if you want to highlight some of those changes that were going to be coming their way.
Well, we did shoot a video, so if you want actually the details of it, there is a video posted on our YouTube channel, and it's actually a couple blog posts back on the website. Pretty easy to find. It'll give all the details. But a few things that are happening. We're shifting around some of the programs into, lesser tiers to simplify it. So things like the garage program, which a lot of people were asking about, but didn't want to commit to that complete tier level. We're actually dropping it down to the pro level and renaming it the Hatchet program. So a simplified version of the blog for people who want some of the scaling done for them or don't have access to the amount of equipment that we ask you to have access to on the standard blog. So that'll be readily available for everybody in the pro tier. What else we got?
So the
spot.
the
Big
complete
one.
tier
Bunch
actually
of stuff. Big one.
that's my bag. The complete tier now really is going to be a specific focus for masters athletes. So we're going to add a few things to that. We're going to add a test week video review to that. Masters will get their own members only T-shirt.
So will the other complete tier members. You don't have to be a master.
True.
Well,
Only masters.
complete tier, yeah. So, but the idea is that thus far in the complete tier, we've had a pretty big gathering of a cool community of masters athletes, and we're just going to expand upon that, give them a little bit more access, try to give them a little bit more feedback on what they're doing, because they're just all into it. So it's going to be pretty good for them on the new tier, and that actually is going to go down to $69.95.
Price break.
Yep.
That means they can basically buy a new T-shirt a month from us with the savings.
Huh?
It's pretty good.
And they get their free one.
Yeah, something to consider. A free T-shirt, and because CrossFitters don't have enough shirts, so
Definitely not.
And a free camp after
Wow.
a year of subscription. That's
it's just
exciting
better
as well.
and better. Thank you, Ted. That's a great reminder. The subscription will continue, so it's not going anywhere. So let's chat about Cycle 4. Let's get right into it. The Open is coming, and therefore the cycle will reflect the Open. Cycle 4 will take us, I think, to the week prior to the start of the Open.
Yep.
So this
Another
is
6-week cycle.
This is Open prep. You'll have 6 weeks of training with, of course, the test week on either side. So 8 weeks in a row coming up. The big note that everyone has been asking about, when is Metcon Monday coming back?
It's back.
It's back. It's back. Metcon
Sure,
Monday.
so excited.
3 mandatory conditioning pieces every Monday. And that'll be basically all you do. So you will hit 3 difficult conditioning pieces. You'll focus on breathing, sweating, pushing through, pain. That'll be all you got to do for the whole day. No heavy lifting, unless it's in the Metcon, which is totally possible. So we'll talk about all the different categories here. And we'll start with the warm-ups. So I'll jump into that. Everyone also remembers, on top of Metcon Monday, the weakness warm-up. And we used them a while ago, some in Cycle 1, if I'm not mistaken. They're coming back around. And the purpose of that just is so that as the Open approaches, we focus on Metcon. So yes, there is some heavy lifting requirements within the Open. Sometimes it's been a separate lift after a workout. Sometimes, like last year, they just bury like 315-pound bars into a Metcon. So you're going to have to lift heavy, but if you are not able to breathe heavy enough to get through something, the heavy bar never even mattered. If you didn't have the skills or the conditioning, you never even got to the heavy bar to begin with. So we're going to make sure that within the weakness warm-ups that you're willing to kind of jump into something each day and just kind of knock the dust off and get going. So the weakness warm-ups this cycle will feature things that you've seen in the past, but they'll be slightly different just so you don't fall into some sort of rhythm and don't take them seriously. So instead of the 2K row like we've had in the past, you're actually going to row for calories. So guys will row 150 calories and ladies will row 100.
Oh, boy.
Is that exciting?
My favorite. Yeah, my favorite.
Your favorite, rowing for calories. A little more difficult.
Cool, Sherby won the warm-up.
Yeah, a little more difficult than rowing for distance, actually. We'll do a weakness warm-up on the bike, 5K and 4K. We'll bring back the bar-facing burpees, so 75 bar-facing burpees to get moving. And we will have the fourth weakness warm-up will be either running a mile or skiing a 2K. So for those of you that picked up a ski erg this season, probably use the ski because we're not going to see any running in the open. We're not going to see skiing in the open either, but it's a little different. You could switch back and forth each week, but just try to get comfortable. Pick one or the other. Pick the one that is worse for you, more than likely. That's kind of the point of the weakness warm-up.
Definitely
anyway.
skiing for me. Definitely.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Definitely not running.
Definitely not.
Yeah, and that's the big thing. The other thing with the warm-ups is we're bringing back primers, and we will use primers in the open, and I think anyone that's been with us for the last year is familiar with the primer. It's basically the way to spike your heart rate, get blood pumping, hopefully recruit some muscle, and then let yourself come back down so that when you actually do step into the Metcon, you don't have that immediate shock of the first difficult thing you've done in that training session. That's already out of the way, so your heart rate can settle down a little easier as you get breathing heavy. And that primer will be one a week, and it will be on Metcon Monday. So you'll get to actually put that into play, feel out how you should approach a primer, and see how it makes you feel going into whatever the first piece of your Metcon Monday will be. So sort of you get 4 Metcons now. It's not even 3. It's like up to 4.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Even more.
I think it's important for people to pay attention to not just how they feel with the primer going into the Metcon, but how they feel as each Metcon comes through and how they're able to perform. Because we have athletes who see how this works every single year. They do it, and then when the open comes around, they get scared and they won't do the primer before the open workout, and it's ridiculous. It's like, this is one workout today. This is all you're doing for the whole day, and you're worried that a 200-meter row is going to fuck your grip up for pull-ups.
Yeah.
So I really want people to pay attention to, once your body's really ready to work out, like really, really ready, like peak performance, a lot of times that's going to be that second, third, or fourth piece, and that will teach you about how your body works and how quickly you can recover from this stuff, and then what the optimal amount of activity is before you're trying to get as many reps as possible. Like, so many people will get that intuitive, they're all good, and then the open rolls around and they're like, I will not do a 135 power clean before this WOD. You're insane. It's like, you train like 5 times a day all year, and now you can't do a primer. So just pay attention to that. Get yourself used to it. That'll help a lot. And then one other thing with the warm-ups just popped into my head is Gabe's got a really cool 2K row case study coming up that will explain a lot about the weakness warm-up. And Gabe actually had different groups go through it and go through another kind of version of it. So the pro and complete tier, keep your eyes out for that. It's a really cool article just about it's actually about a few different things. I won't spoil it too much, but keep your eye out for that.
I did PR my 2K by 22 seconds in 10 days, just saying, by doing this. So.
And that video is great. At the end of that video, where I did it.
Shut up.
I did it. My favorite thing.
Whatever.
One of my favorite things ever.
So I have a question, though,
Yeah.
back to the primers.
Sure.
The cool thing I like about this is what, the 3rd year that we've been putting these in for people, primers in for people.
At least.
So hopefully people are getting familiar with this. And when I look at it, when I go and watch athletes like warming up for regional pieces at regionals, they have a good idea of what they should do. And so if you pay attention to it, like Drew said, you'll know what your body needs to get ready. So sometimes, and I know a question that we'll probably get a lot is, should I do a primer before every piece I do? If I'm breaking my training session up into 2 sessions, should I prime before every one? And the answer is, don't do the same primer necessarily, but yeah, you should spike your heart rate. So feeling the difference between those, because like I see all the like high level athletes, you go there and you're about to go out on the floor and do a workout. You don't want that heart rate spike to be the first 2 movements that you do. To barbell, you lift the barbell twice and you're already redlined. So it could be as simple as every minute on the minute 10 calorie row or something like that for 3 rounds. So finding ways that get your body moving effectively before this.
So you're saying if you split that up into 2 sessions
Yeah.
and we have a primer in there, you can still prime yourself.
Yeah, I'm saying don't do the primer 3 times.
Right.
150 bar facing burpees.
Times 3.
But find a way to take the same concepts and spike your heart rate and be ready for that piece so you can go into it.
If there was a
and crush
question in there, I missed it because you started off with saying I have a question, and then you talked for 2 minutes, and I've been listening intently.
Sorry, I was gonna ask
trying
you,
to find
I
the
just-
question. I'm
He
like,
answered
oh,
the
it. I was
shoot,
going to
where
ask
is
you,
it?
and then I just decided
What
to
is
explain
today?
it
Took it
myself.
over.
Okay, that makes
We
sense.
will get the question though. Should I do the primer 3 times?
course.
or whatever. So
And I'll just say one last thing before we continue to talk about boring warm-ups. I think the primer is on the low end. So we give the primer to be 3-4 minutes. I think most CrossFitters, based on their style of training and the way their body handles volume, would actually benefit from moving for up to 10 minutes before they actually get into a Metcon. I think most people that train regularly would tell you that their second conditioning piece is probably their prime time of the day, especially if it follows relatively soon after their first.
I was definitely going to agree with that. That's actually one thing I was going to bring up about the primers is that they're really intense, and we usually see that the athlete does better if they get moving around some. So just
Definitely.
get yourself moving around, put yourself through those ranges of motion, but then spike your heart rate and go. I mean, I think that's the best strategy for me personally getting ready for an open workout or
I think
prepping
that's
for that
most,
cycle.
but like Drew said, they have this fear like deep down that if they do anything before they focus on the open workout, it's going to screw them up. It's just the complete
It's
opposite
just so
of
funny
how
they
it
wanna-
works for
how they want
CrossFitters.
to change their whole
That-
psyche going
That
into
first
Yeah.
light bulb moment was camp 1. The first camp that we ever did before we were getting ready to go out on the road. We did one here, and we had 2 days of like brutal workouts. And day 2, we had an all-out row in there. We had another workout, and then every single person in camp PR'd Fran Rap. Like everyone
That's
was
right.
completely obliterated, but there wasn't that like. You know how some days, like if it's like legless rope climbs or there's something that does something to like a particular muscle group, I think that's what people get a little bit scared of.
Yeah.
But that didn't make its way into any of those training pieces. And then they were, on their 7th piece in 2 days, and everyone just looked loose, ready, good to go. Like there wasn't a lot of warming up going into that because they thought that they were, everybody thought that they were obliterated, and every single person PR'd. And a lot of people PR'd by a lot. And that was when it was like, wait a minute, you should be ready to.
We should do this every single time.
Yeah,
maybe?
you should be
Yeah.
ready to go.
And people that walk in the gym, they say, oh, I feel like shit. I don't want to train today. I'm just going to skip this piece and do that. Have you gone through any sort of warm-up yet before you made your decision? Most people are like, no, I'm just sore. It's like, warm up. You won't feel sore. You may feel a little sore.
It's over now.
But you'll be moving a lot easier, and you'll see that most of that was just your perception. You're actually fine and ready to train. But all right,
Enough with that.
enough of warm-ups. Jeez,
Is
sure.
this next thing his nickname, Metcon Sherb?
Metcon
Metcon.
Sherb.
Oh,
You know my
Metcon
nickname.
Sherb.
It's Metcon Sherb. I feel like we say this every cycle, but we're sticking with classic CrossFit. I mean, this time of year, prepping for the Open, it wouldn't make sense to all of a sudden now segment our training out to rowing by itself, gymnastics by themselves, and barbell stuff. We're going to mix it all together and some open style workouts. But that doesn't mean we're only going to do open style workouts. There are still a necessity to train some of those regional type movements. So I'm sure you'll sprinkle in some pegboards, some legless rope climbs, which we probably wouldn't see in the Open, some handstand walks.
GHDs, dumbbell
just-
stuff.
Yeah, just some random things, just so you're, constantly varying your stimulus.
Doing thrusters and sumo deadlift high pulls and push press every single day because it's in the open is going to beat
Gets
you up
old.
pretty bad. Yeah, that's
I
going
mean,
to
you
get
talk to a
old.
lot of our regionals guys when we start figuring out what the workouts are and they start testing those things. They're like, man, I need a day where we do something
Yeah.
that's not a regionals workout so I don't feel so beat up. So
And with the amount of pieces that we do on the blog, 3-4 pieces a day, you're going to find those open movements in there each day anyway. So if you started stacking them in every Metcon, boy,
Be
that would
obliterated,
be terrible. Yeah.
but something that's unique to this cycle is that the Metcons are mandatory. This is really the first cycle of the year where every single day, 5 days a week, there'll be a mandatory Metcon. Again, because we're prepping for the Open, we want to get that feel of what hitting a Metcon every single day is like and trying to get ourselves up for that. So when you get into the Open, when you have that one workout that really matters, you're not freaking out about it because you haven't done enough Metcons, or I haven't done this combination with that combination. So getting enough Metcons underneath your belt is huge for really getting yourself comfortable with those movements. So the last thing I think is unique to this cycle is when we've done this in the past is we want to test old open workouts, right? See where we're at. It was a chance to compare versus the past versus how you're doing now. Maybe you get a chance to reevaluate your strategies from last year. Like if I had done the double under toe to bar clean this way instead of that way, I could have gotten another chance to take a swing at 275 or maybe crack at 315. So, I think practicing the open workouts is a really good way to simulate what it feels like. Because they work past workouts.
Let's dig into that a little bit. Like it's almost kind of like the preseason. Like you should make sure that your phone works, that you can upload it to YouTube, get yourself a judge, throw your beats on and listen to Lose Yourself by Eminem and have your tearaway sweats on, shut the lights off and play your run outs. No, but seriously, use it as find those people that you want to beat in the open. Make sure you know what they get for scores. Treat it exactly like the open so that the first time when that anxiety rolls around, you're ready. You're kind of ready. It's partially there. There's no other sport where you would just check yourself into that, no simulating of that whatsoever. So make it a big thing, especially if the open fucks with you mentally.
That judge is important because you may have been moving through range of motion all year that people are going to say that does not fucking count. So someone to say that to you before game day, I think is really important. And using your phone to film and watching am I cool with posting this to Facebook and letting everyone see what I'm doing, or do I need to reevaluate because it's already kind of too late? So if that's the case, I better figure shit out now.
That intensity label that we put on all our pieces, throughout the year, we never say intensity over quality of movement, but you'll be shocked when you are really trying to go really hard as you can, if your quality of movement is exactly what you think it is. So clean that up now.
So I also think it's a kind of a wake-up call, too. I have some athletes that film themselves regularly, and they get to use that as a tool to view themselves working out and say, hey, I thought I only rested for 5 seconds, but it looks like I rested for 30 seconds in the middle of a workout. So some of those things are some strategies to keep yourself moving, or, practicing your transitions or knowing what your transitions are will help you in the open. If toes to bar goes right into squat cleans, that in the past you'd taken 15 seconds, or think your comfortable range, comfortable rest time is 15 seconds. Maybe you push that a little bit more because you've seen it on camera and hey, I wasn't that tired. I could have just picked that bar up, but I've seen it enough times where now I can fix it.
It's a good confidence builder too, I think, for people who, even if you might be in a rut, if you've actually been training all year, almost every open workout should end up being a PR for you, the things that we're going to put out there. And if they're not, it's a real time for you to evaluate what's going on. Was it one particular movement that you either haven't made progress on, or is still holding you back, or are you just not in the shape you thought you were in, or have you been kidding yourself with your training all year? Whatever it is, these workouts should be eye-opening for you, and most of you, if not all of you, will be PRing these WODs regularly, and it should help pick up your confidence a bit going into the open season, showing that you're a better version of you, I think.
I can't tell you how many times I get messages from athletes I suck, and they do an open workout and they're like, I just PR'd 14.5 by 570 reps.
Yeah, seriously.
Okay, yeah, you suck. You're right.
Still suck.
You're correct. You're accurate.
Yeah. And then those people throughout the year that have a toe injury when Amanda comes up, or they're not feeling it today, so that 5 rep max is not a 5 rep max attempt, and a 1 mile run or a 2K row, or wow, what a trend we're spotting here. Don't you fucking dare skip these workouts.
Right.
Okay? If you have goals, they need to be put out into the world. Don't live in your little bubble. Do the workouts, put your score out there, give yourself some sort of incentive to get better at these things, cuz we know some athletes that if some random Metcon, they'll wax that ass 365 days a year. You put a name to it, you put something else to it, and they'll either skip it or they'll be so in their head that they'll suck at it.
Yep.
Do not wait for the open. Do not skip these. You're not injured. Shut up. Do the workout.
They remember how bad they hurt from years past too, and so they have anxiety towards it as they approach it. But then I think when most people do that and they get over that hump of the anxiety and they do the workout, they shock themselves because it's not as bad as they remember it. So the memory of them going through it was tenfold what the actual experience is. And to remind yourself that it's not as bad as you remember it is really, really important for being willing to go all in on workouts. So your memory will almost always make it seem worse than it actually was.
Yeah, definitely.
Because you just remember how hard you worked during the open. So just remembering that your experience and your memory don't always match up is pretty important. Anything else on the Metcons?
I really can't think of the top of my head like anything else other than the fact that you should treat these seriously to get yourself practiced and get yourself ready for the season. That's what this is all about. This is why most of you follow our blog day in and day out.
Yeah,
because you're trying to get better at the open. So practice.
It's not a lot different than what they've been doing all year.
No, not at all.
The intervals, however, will be a little more specific. So the interval work will be 4 days a week, and 3 of the couplets will be chosen with specific patterns. So one day the couplet will be like a monostructural movement mixed with gymnastics. Another day it'll be a monostructural mixed with a barbell. And the last day will be a gymnastics mixed with a barbell. So you can think of it sort of in terms of the bitch work through the year, how the bitch work became bitch gymnastics and then sort of got turned into intervals. So that's where we're at now, is pushing one movement and seeing how it affects the other in all capacity of the sport. So pushing the monostructural to affect the gymnastics or vice versa, pushing the monostructural to affect the barbell or vice versa, and then again the gymnastics and barbell together. So these are all things we're going to face in the open in different orders of the way they set the workouts up. So I'm going to try to expose you to as many different situations in an interval setting as possible so that you can go very, very hard for a short amount of time with a fair piece of rest, and then you can rest and repeat. And when you rest and repeat, you can take the information you gain from interval 1 and hopefully make an adjustment to improve in interval 2, or at least stay consistent. And then again with 3, 4, whatever, how many rounds there are. So that'll be the focus of at least 3 out of 4 days. And then the other interval that doesn't fit that kind of pattern will be kind of I just call it a change of pace interval. So it'll be things that are a little different. It may be similar to maybe like a round of something you might expect to see in the open. You go through a round really fast, you take a break, you do it again. You can really expect anything from there. So while I'm still focused on the open and focused on that style of conditioning, the 4th interval of the week, whatever day that ends up falling on, will be slightly different than the pattern I explained before. So that's how the intervals are going to work this cycle. And that's all I have to say about that.
Cool. So I'll talk a little bit about the Oli for this cycle. The first one that I'll go over is a touch and go power rep accumulation. And so this will be power snatch or power cleans. We're looking at accumulating a large number of reps. And we're looking to prioritize doing this in as few sets as possible.
Let's give an example so we can kind of put it in context for them. Let me give you, I'll read you week 1, day 3, and you can kind of put context to it. So the workout or the lift will be accumulate 50 reps of touch and go power cleans at 70% of your 1 rep max. And this is for time and for fewest sets possible.
Yep. So obviously there's both of those things are really important in our sport. And so this actually will give you an ability to work on in a large chunk of reps what you are weakest at. So if you know that you could hit a set of 25 of those good, then you're gonna have to wait for like 15 minutes before you touch the barbell again.
25 of those? Holy shit, that would kill me.
That's
so many.
That's the point.
That's probably going to be your strategy, is hit a big set and as big as possible, and then get back to the bar before you you really want to. If you know that that's no problem for you. Maybe it's, hey, can I go 5 sets of 10 with minimal rest? And there's still big sets, but you're factoring both in. You're factoring, can I hit a big set and can I do this in as quickly as possible? So you get a little component of that. And again, it allows you to work on what you're a little bit weaker at.
Yeah, we talked about, what I wanted to prioritize in a piece like this when I wrote this. And my first thought was, I want to prioritize the sets of touch and go. So if somebody completed somehow 50 reps in like 3 big sets, I said to Gabe, that would be really impressive. And he said, yeah, but who cares about impressive? Is that applicable to what we're doing? And I said, well, I guess if he takes 5 to 10 minutes off each set, then no, it's not applicable. It's kind of out there in left field. Doesn't really make sense. And we also said, is it that important for somebody just to hit 3 to 5 over and over again with minimal rest? And I said, well, that doesn't really hit the point either, because the point is to be able to hold on for longer sets. So depending, and I think you just said this, and I might be saying it again, but depending on what you need as an athlete is how you're going to attack this workout. If you need to push the sets and hold on longer to get better at touch and go, that's where the focus needs to be, with the clock being secondary, important but secondary. If you need to actually accumulate reps in a short amount of time because your work capacity is just not there, then maybe sets of 5, 4, 5, 6, 7 with shorter rest is appropriate for you anyway, because maybe touch and go doesn't matter that much to you. So depending on where you're at as an athlete, there's a way to look at this objectively and get a lot of work done in a short amount of time. I mean, the workout does define CrossFit, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just kind of a meshing of like what is the best strategy, and so this piece is really going to give you. It's going to give you two things if you do it right. It's going to give you some confidence and getting outside of your comfort zone and having success. So, oh, hey, I could actually hit a set of 15 or 20 of those reps and still be able to move. When otherwise, if it was in a Metcon, you're not going to do that because I just ruined the entire Metcon because I can't move anymore. And if you know that, hey, I can go for 25-minute AMRAP, multiple rounds, I can just hit 5, 5, 5, 5, go do the other thing back 5, 5, 5, 5. It'll allow you to change those strategies as well. So you're going to come to probably a center point where it's like, how can I make myself the most effective at moving weight? And
you will learn something about yourself. It's guaranteed.
For sure.
Not interested.
Me either.
Well, you're going to be my test dummy for this. So.
Oh, no.
He is. The best part of that is he's so bad at touch and
exactly
go.
why I want to use him.
Yeah.
You're my worst case scenario.
I am.
There's no reason for you to be bad at it.
No.
I just hate it.
Especially with the way you deadlift, there's no reason for you to not be good at Metcon style touch and go.
It's not my favorite.
Come on, let's do handstand holds. No, let's do wall sits. No, I can't. I suck at them.
Yeah, that's right. Fucking A. Don't make me do things I don't like.
So for your snatches and cleans, full snatches and cleans, we're going to go with a complex style. And this is going to be fun and interesting. So you'll start with the bar from the floor. You'll perform the first perform the
Jordan
first movement.
liked it, kind of.
Yeah, I think
tested.
it'll be fun for if you're good. It'll be fun. But so you'll start with the bar on the floor. Execute the first rep. Let's say it's snatches. You'll do one full snatch, and then the rest will be from the hang. So you'll do as many reps as you can from the hang. And as you guys know, each rep, it gets a little heavier. It demands a little bit more speed under the bar. And so hopefully toward the last bit of this, it'll really have you snapping under the bar and under fatigue, and it's super applicable to what you're going to need to do.
Yeah, my thought when I tested this out with Jordan, the snatches, the week 1, and my thought was that, again, in the open, volume is important, right? Being able to do a lot of work quickly, that's sort of what we're doing. The first snatch is kind of the easiest. Obviously, the percentages are fair that you can do quite a few reps of this. So the first snatch is there, and then it's about how well you can kind of cycle that bar after. And like you said, the pull goes away. Yeah. So it's how fast you can sit under that barbell. So you have all these reps that are accumulating at fair but challenging percentages, and the percentages will go up. And so you're working on your speed under the bar. And then you have all this touch and go work that we just talked about, where you have to actually pull. You have to work on that pull over and over and over again from the floor. So hopefully the two combine, you'll be really good conditioning-wise to move that weight for a lot of reps. You'll be really fast under a bar, and your pull's going to get stronger. And if we add this all up when it counts, my hope is that it starts to, without having to do this heavy lifting all the time in the open and burning everybody out, you can go back to some of the skill stuff without having to really break it down, but make it applicable to now and sort of reinforce those good habits that people have been trying to build. And we'll see if it comes out. So when I look at this, like one Metcon
that comes to mind that this would directly apply to is something like Amanda. So you go in your first set of snatches on the barbell. It's like, oh man, I'm like heaving this thing over my head. I'm fresh and moving it. And then by the second round, you're back to the bar. Your grip's toast. Your legs are kind of toast. And it's just like, okay, get it moving and just snap underneath. So the willingness to do that, you're going to make a lot of progress in that here. Could apply to something like pennies as well.
I think it applies even to 16-2, the heavy barbell last year in the workout.
Yeah. 16-2.
I mean, just moving those bars as it's a lot of reps. The reps get shortened, but the weight goes up. Like, it doesn't matter that it's not exactly the way that it's written here, the same style. The fact that you have to clean 315 7 times is a big deal after you've already cleaned a heavy bar 30 times prior to that, getting there. So I think it applies to all sorts of things in that fashion. Also, if you are super fatigued near the end of these sets in either the full snatch, full clean, or the power stuff, you're still required to hit this heavy percentage. If CrossFit goes back to saying, okay, it's a lift post WOD, you're required to hit a very large percentage. A lot of people can actually still PR into these conditions under fatigue. So this hopefully will teach those habits that what you'll have to immediately be able to come back to be able to hit these lifts when you're completely smoked.
Yeah, I mean, I think about the first open workout, they did that too. That the clean and jerk, that pull from the ground, at least for me,
so
that
heavy.
pull from the ground felt so heavy.
Yeah.
If I didn't have speed under the bar, there's no way I was getting that on my shoulders. So for sure. All right, so looking at the overhead movements, we're going to alternate weeks of push jerk and heavy split jerk. Push jerk for reps, and these, looking at the cycle, are going to be with the squats, right? So you're gonna do those on the same day right after a set of squats. So just still allowing you to practice going overhead in two different ways, going heavy versus something that you would like to do in a Metcon.
The split jerks will be nice and heavy, so people continue to work on that, and the push jerks will be higher rep than last cycle.
Oh boy.
Sherb complained about the push jerks every single time, and he hit his percentages every single time.
So far, so good.
Is that the first time you've ever hit all of your percentages on anything?
Probably. Yeah.
You've been doing good with that this year.
He looks like he's moving a little bit more like a human being this year.
There you go.
Breaking my body into the right position so I can actually do it correctly.
And then last, we'll talk about the non-mandatory Olympic lifting. Will be once per week. We'll have a immediately post WOD lift. So
Yay.
just kind of
That is unsafe. Who the fuck wrote that? That's not cool. Oh my goodness.
nobody's gonna PR their lifts. Nobody's
No,
gonna.
it's not possible,
it's-
actually.
yeah.
It's not possible.
It's downright dangerous.
It's dangerous. It's irresponsible, frankly.
So I mean,
Sorry.
you'll show yourself that you're all the stuff that you put in as far as your positioning, your lifting all year will pay off here, and you'll be able to hit high percentages of your lift. And this is
I
awesome
hope.
because it
Turn
will,
that stupid brain off and get to work.
Yeah.
It'll show you really, if this comes up in the open, what where you want to start. What's your safe lift, and then what you can.
Is that like a safe word?
That's all I thought of as soon as he said that. It's just a safe word.
That'd be cool if during the open you could pick your safe lift.
Banana
you
peel.
got done. You're like, curl, safe lift.
Oh, leg extension.
Yes.
Cool. So that's all we got for Oli. Go right
Grandpa
into.
Gabe is not into the jokes today.
Wow.
Yeah,
He just
I
waits for us to shut up, then he starts talking again.
The kid's done.
For the lifting, got back squats and front squats each week, and we're going to alternate between high rep back squats and front squats, and then or hypertrophy sets, and then you're going to do some endurance squatting. So the hypertrophy sets look good because they'll kind of demand a really good position. You're going to hit reps over and over again. So all the stuff that you've been doing with the squatting this year, you always see the athlete that does their 5x5, and it looks like they're just bouncing up and down from it, and it's like, oh, how you doing with the heavy weight? That's what we're looking for in the higher reps with the can you produce that speed? Can you stay in a good position and get those done? And so that's really going to give you some insight into if there is a breakdown, what is it? What is stopping me from holding a good front rack position and sitting in and hitting reps over and over again?
That can I jump into something real quick? Drew can actually probably explain this better than I can, but That would be what I am also looking at on the back squats, is that people put the focus on the speed and not the weight. You've done so much heavy lifting throughout the year that almost everybody you talk to has some sort of, in this whole sport, everyone has a nagging issue. Everyone has something that their knees are sore, their shoulders sore, this is going on, whatever. This is a time of year where we're actually unloading you a little bit more so than normal as far as the super heavy percentages. But that doesn't mean that we want you to just take time off and not get stronger or get faster or whatever. So if you're squatting, especially the sets of 10, sets of 8, things like that, we'd expect you to be fast through them, smooth, fast, perfect, move with intention. This isn't it's not an off lift. You're just doing sets of 10 because it's easy, because it's lighter. It's just not the case. So I don't know if you want to jump in on that a little more.
I mean, the biggest thing that I see that people get so obsessed with is the weight itself, like how much weight is on the bar. And people will be really surprised at how irrelevant that is, both if you're moving slow or if you're moving improperly. Skill transfer is so huge in our sport. I mean, we ask you guys to back squat so often, but if your back squat is just some, your pile of bones goes down into like a ball at the bottom, and then you're standing back up at the top, and who knows how you got there. It doesn't matter how much weight's on the bar. It's just not going to work. So, as we continue to change the stimulus we're looking for, and that's really just a huge part of what we're trying to do, is continue to change, so that you get a different stimulus. The focus stays the same. Stand up as fast as you can, load properly. Each squat should look the same. Obviously, if you have the ailment that I do and you're not so great with slow twitch fibers, reps 8 through 10 could be a little bit slower.
I
but
can't
at
wait.
least you're still attempting to go through that. And I think I would say, and we're gonna have to wait until after cycle 4, but I think we've finally gotten the strength cycle style that we want through all 4 cycles. Now that we're 4 or 5 years into doing this, it's kind of funny. It's literally the exact opposite of the protocol that is used for weightlifters. So they start with hypertrophy,
right,
and they make their way down. But you consider the concentration of fast twitch fibers that they have, and then the concentration of slow twitch that CrossFitters have from time under tension. It makes perfect sense that it is a little bit backwards. So this really should be to steal from CrossFit the whole energy systems thing. This should be the final kind of frontier for you guys to pull all of this together, so that all of that work you did all year can actually go straight into the open. So, I mean, kind of a long rant answer to the question, but definitely move fast. That's a huge
Always the
priority.
goal. Yeah.
And I just the caveat on that is it's not down up, down up, down up, down up. So many people do that. It's load yourself properly and then stand up fast.
Yeah, I mean, when you have this many reps, you do have the opportunity at these percentages to make sure that every rep is as good as the last. And
Right.
if you're not taking that opportunity, then, again, you're not taking it seriously. So, back to you. Sorry. Stole the show there. Go.
Oh, perfect. The other lift that we're going to primarily be doing is deadlift. And I think if you guys were following us last year, you experienced this cycle. So it alternates between...
I don't think they did, actually. I think this came out of... I think this would be new for Cycle 4. I think this came out of games
That's
stuff.
kind of Jordy's game stuff.
Yeah. So this particular cycle came out of the games. So this...
Also, not everybody
I don't think we
went through
released
last
this.
year. Okay.
And I think this was actually 2015.
This first year, yeah.
So this isn't even... I don't think this was ever released. Boom.
Well, there you go. You
Exclusive.
get a brand new
Exclusive.
exclusive cycle that only games people should be doing. No. So what you're going to be doing is you'll be alternating between for deadlift is you're going to be alternating between working up to one set of 5, and so you'll find a 5-rep max in test week, and you'll be working up to one set of 5 at 90% of that 5-rep max, and that will be on one week, and the following week you're going to do some percentage work where you'll do a descending set, and it's descending in reps, and the percentages will go up, and it'll progressively get heavier and heavier. So you'll do a 6 at maybe 60%. You'll do 5 at 70%, 4 at 80, and work up to a heavy single. And so you'll be pulling one heavy rep. So that alternation, it allows you to get a little bit of a volume in there, but also pull at one heavy rep.
Is alternation a word?
Sure. I think it should be.
Altered nation.
Shown was what was it?
This is
yesterday?
America.
There was a really
and you
good
get to
one
make up
yesterday
words,
or Monday.
Oh yeah, there was a really. Oh yeah. I wish I remember that.
You get to make up
Poof.
words here.
So the deadlifts give you an opportunity to lift heavy, but they also don't tax you a lot
They'll crush you.
for your week. So it's the last lift of the week. So you will get a rest day after that, and it is non-mandatory. So if you're perfectly comfortable with your deadlift, this may be the time of year not to do it.
Travis says, "Fuck you."
Yeah, I know.
I'm putting my straps on.
Well, he has a deadlift bar, so by the time he picks the bar up, he's almost standing before it even comes off the ground. Doesn't count.
That's great.
All right. Let's see. I thought I had one more thing to mention, but I'll mention it later.
How
All good.
fitting. The only thing that's left for me is the bitch work, the bitchiest bitch of them all. So it's still the same. You guys will have mandatory rowing intervals each week. They are like, I would say one or two rounds on some of them longer than you should be able to hold pace on. And you get that amazing physical adaptation from the first few rounds. And then the last one or two is that like gut check, mental, what are you willing to do?
Yep.
Once you're trying to decide whether your lungs hurt more than your legs or if it's your forearms, or I know different stuff goes on people, especially on the rower, but that's what it looks like to me. I mean, I don't know if you can speak to that at all. I just see that like, I know the guys can hold 2 or 3 1Ks pretty well. What happens on the fourth?
Yeah,
1K?
I think you're exactly right. Basically, if we decided to make bitch work complicated again, you would be giving people so many complex series of conditioning things that they wouldn't be able to just find that opportunity to turn it all on. So sometimes in Metcons, the skills hold you back. Sometimes the weights hold you back. Sometimes in intervals, you get the same issue, or the intervals could be shorter, or the intervals could be, the movements could kind of take away from your ability just to go. So re-simplifying bitch work again with everything else you have in conditioning, it's just going to give you that chance, if you still need to step it up, to be able to turn it on, rest without having to put a ton of thought into it. It's as simple as it gets. Like you said, rowing, mandatory 1 day a week. Rowing is the only bitch work machine that we expect to see in the open. Fair. So that's mandatory. And then the one thing I will add to it is day 5, there's a burpee bitch work piece every week. It's not mandatory, but it'll be burpees and something else. So we'll give you as many opportunities to play with different styles of burpees in an interval situation as possible, if you so choose, if you feel that you need that. Some people need to deadlift, some people need to do burpees, some people need the skill work. You'll have those choices on day 5. So
And this is the time of year where you really need to use how we structure the website to your advantage. So you've got is it 4 full days of non-mandatory bitch work? Is it on there every day, or is it
Yes.
3 more?
No,
So
yeah,
it's 4 more days.
5 days a week bitch
So
work's
if
on
you're lying to yourself and saying that you don't need any of those, then good luck in the open. But if you are being honest with yourself, it's good that all 4 are non-mandatory, because you start to see the patterns and you start to find how to tailor what's going on in this cycle to you. I think that's such a huge part of having those non-mandatory pieces in there. You've got to be able to recognize the patterns and say, I really need to work on this stuff every week. And then, kind of after that, decide, where the rest of your pieces are going to be. But the fact that they're split out into bike, run, ski, double under, and then the burpee, that's huge if you guys take it to your advantage.
And one thing I think, I don't promote this often, but again, going back to what Drew said, making the blog work for you, because the bitch work is so simple, there may be certain parts of bitch work that you need more than others. You may need to run more than you need to bike, or vice versa. You may need to do burpees more than you need to do whatever. Because the bitch work is so simple and typically won't affect the Metcons or intervals or lift any more than any other bitch work piece, you can shift them around. So like the pattern is really simple so that you guys know when to expect each type of bitch work. So row is day 1, bike is day 2, run is day 3, double under / ski is day 4. So depending on the week, we'll go back and forth. And day 5 is burpees with something else. So if you have a day where you want to do bitch work, but your running is great and your burpees are terrible, or your running is great and your biking is terrible, which actually is for a lot of that happens quite a bit when you have a smaller athlete. They can run nonstop and they can't put a lot of power into the bike. So you could just swap that down to the day that you needed it to be in, because they're so simple and they shouldn't affect each other too badly. So this is the one time I might say that it's appropriate to switch the bitch work around to fit your needs better. Typically, the pieces are fit together like a puzzle, and it's very hard to switch them. In this cycle, I think you have a little more leniency to do that to get the most out of it. So,
last but not least, we have accessory work. We have 3 non-mandatory days, and this is actually something that I'm really excited to see on the blog. I know that it's something that we have been able to use in remote coaching for years. Just kind of rep accumulation for stuff that our athletes are uncomfortable with. And I see 2 really big benefits to it. So just quickly to explain what it is, it's what we would call like open sets, where you're taking movements that either you need to work on, you're uncomfortable with, whatever it is, and completely removing them from conditioning, but still having a high enough rep feel to them that it still is going to get you a similar kind of benefit. So the two big things that I see in this, one is just that skill kind of mental side, where it's like, this is such a huge block for me going into the open. I'm going to do a bunch of sets, have it completely removed from conditioning, and I'm going to get used to them a little bit more throughout, basically. The other big thing that I see is there is a lot of time under tension with the upper body. And that is a really tricky thing that we've been trying to figure out in the CrossFit world. It is so easy for us to load up our athletes, to load their midline, to load their lower body throughout the whole year with weight for some pretty serious time under tension.
Yep.
Back squat, deadlift, touch and go, whatever it is. We can't really do that well with the upper body. It's not realistic.
not something that translates well anyway. I mean,
Exactly.
you could hold a yoke over your head all day, but that has very limited, when you're not moving through range of motion, there's very limited use for that.
So it wouldn't make sense for us to just give up on it. It wouldn't make sense that, okay, so the lower body just has a way higher concentration of slow twitch fibers. The upper body doesn't. Let's deal with it. How about we figure out a way to set our athletes apart from other athletes by doing this? And I just see handstand push-up. I see big sets of push jerk. I see overhead squat. I see time under tension with moderate weight, which is really kind of the only thing that we can do. If you made it too heavy, then you don't get the time under tension for the upper body. And for those people that are the type that, again, test week, they love it because they throw big weight overhead, and then 155 push jerks, eat them alive in a Metcon. This is 100% for you. And each opportunity that you see with, again, time under tension over your head, even if that specific movement is good for you, I would advise the athlete to choose that piece, because creating those scenarios for yourself is going to make a change, even if it's just that final push in a Metcon holding on to a barbell in the open. It will make a change in your score, and everyone knows how precious reps are in the open. So.
Yeah, and this actually reminds me of sort of what we talked about back in the back squat, taking all those reps seriously. Like, because this isn't in a conditioning piece, when you talk about the big sets of overhead squats, the big sets of push jerks, or even kettlebell swings, or whatever it ends up being, you can take the chance before you go into a max set and set up exactly the way you would want to be set up, or your coach keeps telling you to be set up and you continue to ignore him because you're too tired to give a shit in a Metcon. Like, this is the time when you could say, oh, wow, you guys are actually right about my feet being in this position. I can, keep tension in my hip much better in the overhead squat. I can keep my midline on. My shoulders are able to rotate easier like this. Okay, great. I'll do this every time. And you can practice these big sets. If you were sloppy about it, you wouldn't get anywhere in this. You'd break down. Something that doesn't need to break down would break down sooner than it should, and you wouldn't get as much out of it. So taking the time to really warm up before you hit this, hitting a few sets, maybe less in the weight, like small sets less in the weight than you're going to use for your big push in these unbroken open sets. Finding where your feet need to be, finding where your grip on the bar needs to be, finding the position where the bar kind of sits either on your front rack or over your head or whatever it is. Really feel it out and then take the chance to go as deep as you can with those movements.
Say it's definitely a different mentality than Accessory has been the rest of the year. The rest
Yes.
of the year, most people just walk over, I got dumbbell bench press. I'll just
Right.
grab the 70s, lay back, start pressing. Like, there's a chance to get better at movements that you're going to see in the open. You're probably not going to see any dumbbell bench press or ring dips or RDLs.
You don't have to be
open, so-
mentally turned on for a set of 10 dumbbell bench
No,
either.
you
To
don't.
get a true set of unbroken 30-pound wall balls or kettlebell swings, like gear up because this is going to hurt when you get deep into this and you're going to have to keep
Absolutely.
going.
It's just more sport specific because it's the time of year we get more sport specific. We get ready to do our sport. You have to be comfortable with big sets of these movements. So it's time to go.
Cool. I mean, I think
Cool.
you guys all said it. I mean,
I thought
if
you were
guys
napping.
take all this seriously, I mean, there's no reason why you shouldn't be extremely well prepared for the open and confident. And if you're prepared and confident, you're dangerous. So get after this cycle.
Do more muscle ups.
Yes.
Do all the muscle ups.
There's lots of muscle ups coming.
One other thing that I want to bring up that probably should have been in the intro, so if you've made it this far, good for you, is if you're looking for that like real switch to turn on prior to the open prep camp will be at CrossFit Clue.
Oh, damn.
February 11th and 12th. Your travel plan should get you there. You'll have more fun if you get there earlier on the 10th,
Yes,
but there's
sure.
nothing completely mandatory on the 10th other than maybe like a spike ball tournament or
That's
so we can
mandatory.
feel better.
Yeah,
the
mandatory.
coaches can feel better about their abilities leading into
Oh, yeah.
actual exercise. So 11th and the 12th, you guys will see that up on our events page in the store. And it's really just an opportunity. It's different than our other camps. It's an opportunity for athletes to come in and battle it out with some of the best athletes on earth. And that is really important as a preseason thing. If every athlete in another sport could go find like, all right, LeBron, let's do a little one-on-one here.
Fun.
I mean, I think about Austin last year at that camp. He got a chance to compete against the best athletes that we have to offer, and you could see a
cried
huge.
during his thrusters.
He might have cried during his thrusters, but there were a lot of times during that weekend where he, built
Absolutely.
some confidence and
Yeah.
got himself ready
Yeah,
for the
I
open.
agree.
So, a good opportunity for you.
Now you'll beat a bunch of them in workouts this year.
Most.
Yeah. Whoa, most.
Now it's
Listen to
cocky.
him. Wow.
I want to piggyback off that and actually plug our remote coaching a little bit. If all this stuff that you listen to in the podcast makes a little bit of sense to you, but you're like, how am I going to apply that to my training? We've been working with a few coaches and really grooming them and making sure that they fit exactly with our philosophies and coaching styles. And so we've been able to open up a few more remote coaching spots. So if you are interested in that, I know if you want some help during the open prep and things like that, like it's an extremely valuable service, probably one of the most valuable services that we
That
offer.
will
So,
fill up quickly because I think about my time in the open is easily my most stressful time of the year because every athlete that you work with sends you all their videos. They talk about strategy. They want to talk about everything that they can. They want to talk about what they had for breakfast and their feelings from yesterday. Like, it is a busy time of year, and it's a really great tool for an athlete to have somebody that understands what they're dealing with and can dump it all out on somebody else to help sort out for them and then give them the good stuff back and then go back to work. I mean, we've got a lot of people who were maybe, in the top 200 of the open that they always said, I want to make it to regionals. And maybe on their own, they didn't quite have just the ability to sort out what they needed to do. And that outside pair of eyes and that outside kind of objective thinking push them in the right direction. And then they obviously do 100% of the work and get themselves over the hump. And I don't know how many people we've had that have joined up with us that have made it to regionals for the first time after doing that. And that is kind of a plug for us, but at the same time, like, every year we get new people that were on the cusp, and
Yep.
every year we get them into the top 20. And it's that's basically our bread and butter. It's what we pride ourselves on. So
And this is a really good time to do it too, being that all the stuff we talked about is this is preseason. This is your practice for the game day. So having somebody help you sort that stuff out now will pay off huge during the Open.
having
So,
somebody who's willing to be brutally honest with
yeah.
you. Some people are terrified of that because they don't want their friends or coach back home to tell them what's really going on, or they don't dare tell them because they don't want to mess anything up. I'll tell you. Oh, I'll tell you.
Confirmed.
My athletes can
Yeah.
attest to that. I'll tell you. So, anyway, is that about it?
I think it is.
That's all I
Cool.
got.
Good.
Good.
Until next time, guys. Thanks for watching.
Good luck.
See ya.
Thanks, guys.